Okay, welcome back. This portion is going to be all about technical SEO. It's going to be very beginner's level. There's just very basic things you need to understand about technical SEO in order for you to be successful at it. You just got to be able to identify problems and then find the person that can, solve the problem that you're having. It's really that simple. You don't need any special technical knowledge to be successful. You just got to be able to identify a problem, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in this video. All right, next slide. Come on. All right, so technical SEO basics. Technical SEO is all about making sure your site can be scanned and indexed as best as possible. All right, so like I mentioned before, search engines do three things, right? You guys remember three things. That is crawling, indexing, and ranking. Technical SEO is all about making sure your site can be crawled and it can be indexed, right? And the only thing that you have to do is be able to answer three basic questions. Is my content accessible to be scanned? Can somebody land on your page and be able to crawl through your website? The next question is, are the crawlers getting to the pages on my website quickly? Is it taking a lot of time for them to get to your pages, or are they able to access this at a relatively quick rate, right? And lastly, can the crawlers find all the website's pages? Do they have a place where they can go where they can be able to see every single URL that you have on your website and be able to go through it from there? If you can answer all these three questions with a yes, and your website is in good technical shape, okay? This gets more advanced for now, but let's just stick to the basics. To ensure your website, is in good technical shape, it has to have three things, right? It has to have mobile friendliness, which means that it has a good mobile loading speed, and it also can be accessed from any kind of mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone, smoothly. If you have a smooth mobile website, this is what I'm talking about. Next is, you have a submitted sitemap, which you would do through Google Search Console. I'm going to show you all about that in a second here. But you have a sitemap, and now you have submitted it to Google for their crawl bots to be able to get through. And then lastly, you just need to have an accessible URL. Is the URL that you're trying to rank for broken? Does your domain work? Do all of your pages work? Or do it leads to a 404 page, which is an error page essentially? All right. But if you can do all of those things and your website's in good technical shape, okay? Site speed. Site speed is all about how fast a crawler and a user can get to a fully loaded page of your website on a smartphone, right? Most people fail at this factor because as a business owner, you likely don't understand coding, like you're not a coder. So of course, you're not going to be somebody who's focusing on the technical aspects of their website when it comes to performance. If you don't have good site speed, if you do have good site speed, it's likely because you have a small website. You have a website with like just a few pages. It doesn't carry much weight when it comes to content. When I say content, I mean text, images, and video. Having thin content is also not good, but your site can load very quickly if it doesn't have much to load, right? So if you're trying to figure out, how fast your website is and what needs to be done, you can do two things. You can go to Google's free Page Speed Insights tool, or you can go to gtmetrics.com to check out your website's loading speed and what can be done about it. Okay, I personally prefer GTmetrix simply because it gives me a report that I can download and hand off to developers. But use whatever works for you. But let's say, for example, I want to take a look at the performance of this website here, right? So right now what's happening is it's crawling through my website, it's crawling through all of its pages from a smartphone to see exactly how fast my website actually is, right? So it's going to take, it's like a minute or two to go through everything, and we'll get back to that in a moment. So yeah, combine, overall, site speed with the ease of use for your website on smartphones. You're all good in that sector overall for technical SEO. So keep that in mind. Whenever you're crawling through this site and you're trying to figure out exactly how fast your website is, you can see exactly how fast it is based on a percentage score, and also from the details within what's slowing your website down and what's keeping it at speeds, right? So right now this website is marked at an A. It's 94% out of 100. That means it loads really quickly on the smartphone, as it should, because it's a site that I worked on. And below you can see all the recommendations for improving the site speed, if there are any, right? So you can see exactly what's slowing you down and also what is in good shape. Now, you don't need to know any of the technical terminology within the space here. You just need to be able to identify it just by using the tool and then passing this off to developers whom you can pay to take care of this for you, right? So all you have to do is download the PDF and make sure they understand that this was like the biggest issue that you saw, and then they be able to handle things from there for you, okay? So now when it comes to resolving site speed issues, like I said before, you don't have to know how to code, right? I don't know how to code. I'm still a beginner coder, and I've been doing SEO for 6+ years, right? So the best way to handle this issue is to find someone who does have the knowledge to do this for you. The great part is that we live in a globalized society where everything is available on the internet. So you can easily go to a gig website and you can find the contractors who have the experience to handle this issue for you, right? You can hire experienced freelance developers to increase the speed on all of your site, to increase the speed of your site on all devices. You can check out Upwork.com. That's my favorite website to use for this sort of thing. So if you just go to Upwork.com, you create an account, you create a job posting, and then at that point you can just do interviews and really go through each of your candidates to see which one you want to work with the most. If you already know someone who's good at websites and can develop yours for you, then go with that. But of course, you want to make sure somebody has the experience in handling the specific problem that you have, because just because they can develop a website doesn't mean that they know how to handle your site speed issues. So make sure you're doing your due diligence in that regard. Okay. Perfect. So that's pretty much it for site speed. You just need to be able to identify your site speed problems and then pass these recommendations off to somebody who has the knowledge and expertise to handle that for you. Good thing is that this is relatively inexpensive. You really only need about $200 to $300 for a developer to be able to make your site faster. And so it's worth a lot, especially when all the traffic and sales and leads that you'll get when you're ranked on the first page for having a fast website. This is pennies compared to what you're going to get in return in the long run. And also, if your site goes through changes, you want to just make sure that you have quick speed at all times. Like every 3 months, just check in on your website to make sure that it's still loading quickly. If it's not, like I said before, just pass it off to a developer, and I'm sure they'll be able to handle that for you. Okay. Okay. Next thing is now that you have a situation where crawl bots can get to your site quickly from all devices, you just want to make sure that they have access to all the links. Now, I know I mentioned sitemaps in the previous section, but you can see how important this is if I have to continually repeat this sort of thing. Having a sitemap is vital to making sure that your site can be crawled and making sure that all of your pages get the attention that they deserve. And so you just need to make sure that crawlers can find all the pages on your site. If they can't crawl your pages, then it does get indexed or ranked. There are two main ways to accomplish this, right? So you can interlink all of your website's pages with the other pages on your website, or you can create a sitemap and submit it to Google. So these are both still viable strategies. I'm not saying either or, I'm really saying do both. So, link your pages together within your site. This is called internal linking. It's commonly achieved by already having a navigation menu with all the pages available at the top of your website. So if you have a general website, then you likely have a navigation menu that links out to all the other pages on your website. It's standard practice at this point just because user experience is important for a general website. And so having all of your menu pages at the top just makes it easier for people to use, but it's also really good for crawl bots, because if you don't have a sitemap, that's the only way that they can actually access your content is just by going through the pages that are available. And I'm going to show you exactly how to submit a sitemap in just a second too. So yeah, submit a sitemap to Google. If you submit the sitemap before crawlbots even crawl your site, they're going to go to your sitemap and just find all the links that they need right from there and then crawl all of your content. They're not going to try and go through every page. They're just going to stick to the sitemap because they know that it has everything that they need already. Okay. So Google Search Console, let's talk about that really quickly. Google Search Console is a web service by Google which allows you to monitor and troubleshoot indexing, excuse me, allows you to troubleshoot and monitor indexing status and to optimize the visibility of your website. It's essentially the hub of understanding your website's relationship with Google. Search Console offers a lot of tools. It's a very in-depth tool, but I'm just going to keep it basic for you, especially if you're new to this. It does a lot of things for you, but just to quickly go through the main things is that A, you can submit a sitemap to ensure your link is visible to crawlers. B, confirm that Google can find and crawl your site. So when you submit your sitemap, you can see exactly how many pages Google found, what they've submitted, what they've indexed, all that other good stuff. The next thing you could do is fix indexing problems and request re-indexing of new or updated content. So some things happen, things get broken, and you fix it, and you want Google to refresh their database with the now updated content or the now new link, and you can do that right from Google Search Console. Okay. And then the next thing you do is you can look at your performance right on Google search results pages. It gives you impressions, clicks, the average position of your website in relevance to the keywords that you get found for. Remember how before I was telling you about how they track your engagement metrics? This is a place where you can actually view all of those metrics yourself and see some things that you can improve upon, keywords that you're ranked low for, keywords that you're ranked high for. It just kind of gives you a great view as to where exactly you are when it comes to being ranked on Google search engine. So it's amazing. I love it. And then the last thing is that you can receive alerts when Google comes across problems with your website. So Google's rooting for you, especially for websites that want to take care of themselves and be better and produce better content for the users. So they're making sure that you have all the tools and all the information that you need to accomplish that. And so that's why you can get alerts and be alerted when they come across an issue with your website. Okay. So let's go through Google Search Console really quickly here. Okay. So this is Google Search Console, right? It's like I said before, it's a hub of anything and everything having to do with crawling and indexing your website and also ranking, right? So you have your performance, you have your URL inspection, you have your coverage, which means that what they were able to crawl. You can see your sitemap, you can see what links were removed. And then down here, you have your enhancements that deal with more of the technical aspects like, site load speed, mobile friendliness, a bunch of things like that. So these are all relatively the same thing, but you can keep track of everything here as far as it relates to your website, right? So the first thing I want to show you is the sitemap part. Sitemap is exactly what it says it is. All you have to do is add it here, hit submit, and then boom, you're done. Your sitemap is automatically submitted to Google. So whenever they're ready to crawl your website, they will definitely go ahead and do that. Come on here. Thank you. But yeah, so once you submit that, they'll have everything that they need as far as being able to find the links that you want to be ranked. Okay. Then there's coverage. Coverage just talks about what's being found and what's being crawled and what's not being crawled, right? So when you come here, as you can see, they've had some issues in the recent past where they weren't able to find certain links, right? And that's mostly because some URLs are blocked by a robots.txt file. And like I mentioned, the robots.txt file, that's the place where you want to make sure they are that's where you tell them what to crawl, what not to crawl. So recently, this robots.txt was updated to let them know not to crawl certain pages, and we've marked that here, so that works. But it also lets you know, which pages are valid, which pages aren't valid, which pages were excluded, and so it's an in-depth look at exactly what was crawled and what wasn't crawled. And if you have anything on here that's an error that wasn't crawled that needs to be crawled, then you definitely want to correct that at that point. But for here, as far as what's on here, it's so far so good. I have things in the robots.txt file that I don't want to be crawled, and so that's what we're looking at here. Okay, that's overall that's the basics of Search Console. Outside of that, you can just see your performance, right? So your performance on search overall for your website is managed and monitored right here. So you can see your average position for keywords. You can see the total impressions. You can see the total clicks from search. And you can filter that date range for whatever you like. And they also show you your average click-through rate. We'll go into detail about Google Search Console and how to exactly manage it on another video, but I just kind of want to give you some quick tips as to how you can manage your sitemap and take a look at your overall coverage as far as what pages were crawled and what pages weren't crawled. Okay, that's the basics of technical SEO. It's just making sure your website can be found and crawled in an efficient manner. You just got to make sure it's mobile friendly. It quickly loads. It is you have a sitemap that's submitted to Google, and you have actual links that work on your website. I know the last one sounds weird, but some people have 4 pages that they want to rank on search, and they just need to fix that in order for them to be accessible. And that's the last part here is URL accessibility. It's really simple. If a link is broken, then it can't be accessed. So make sure you issue a 301 redirect, or you restore that link to its previous condition. But if you don't want to show that URL anymore, just make sure you add a redirect to that URL to the new page. That way, Google doesn't come up with a 404 error on their end. Okay, that's really the basics of technical SEO. Obviously, it gets more complex as you go deeper, but for you to be successful, you just got to make sure your site loads and looks good on a mobile smartphone, and make sure you have a sitemap submitted to Google. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next section. Peace.